Alright, you folks want more, and I have more. Buckle up. It's a mess. Before I get into the little adventure I had with Angela, I'll go over monetization. As I have said before, the entities that enter my vehicle will have a sliding scale rate according to who is most dangerous to me. Borg was the biggest threat because ogres are notorious for indiscriminately eating people. Ray had a lower rate because while he has some pretty terrifying abilities, he's more of a danger to children. By no means is anyone safe, but less dangerous than Borg. My sister only ended up paying $126.59 for her ride, so you folks can relax, since that's less than what a human would pay for Uber. She didn't tip me, but I'm going to let that slide since she's hand-delivering me to her killer to the best of her abilities. We'll call it a wash. As for the entities having money and accounts, I can't speak for Borg and Ray, but my sister says she just fakes account information and essentially robs banks digitally. I guess those banks' bailout really did come out of nowhere. Angela and I spent that ride in relative silence for the first hour. Something wasn't sitting right with me. When telling me she wanted me to find him, my mind was too focused on the possibilities of torturing this crackhead that killed my sister. I almost missed that last part. Angela, my inquisition sliced through the quiet hum of my tires and penetrated her gaze on the road. Yeah, she was holding herself as if she was cold. There's something that's bugging me, I say, tapping my thumb on the steering wheel. What's up? No sign of guilty conscience, and I'm not sure I felt so comforted by that notion. When you said, find him, I guess, what exactly does that mean? What do you mean, you guess? I was trying to hide the created accusatory tone, but I've always been terrible of composing myself. Well, I don't really know. I feel like finding him and resolve therein may allow me to leave this purgatory of just walking around the living. You know, unfinished ghost business. She genuinely sounded theoretical. You mean you don't know? Still sounding like I'm interrogating her. I can't help it. I've seen some weird shit, and since she's my sister, I feel like I can ask away. No bars hold. Strange, isn't it? She says, cocking her head to the side, allowing her eyes to do what I assumed was a blank stare. Her peepers didn't creep me out until then. You would think that dying delivers a sense of clarity or answers some questions. That's just not the case. Dying is like exiting scene 1 and walking into a different set, in a different costume, and unrehearsed lines. It's confusing. I've read a lot about souls being trapped because of unfinished business, and I can't help but think I'll be closer to resting if I try every avenue, no matter how cliche it sounds. My heart crawled into my throat, choking me with sadness. I just got her back, and she's already trying to leave. I try to soften the mood and say, well, why do you even want to go to heaven? There's no affirmation in the Bible that says there will be tacos on the other side. Why chance it? I don't even know if heaven is real. I know that this isn't necessarily my eternity, but heaven could just be a fairy tale for all I know. Damn it. That backfired. Now I feel worse. So you're saying that, what? Your soul just dissipates, still swallowing as much sorrow as I could? That's not what I'm saying. She almost sounds annoyed. I'm not sure if my stupid questions are irritating her, or if she's irritated with her own lack of answers. I'm saying I don't know. I'm saying that I do know that I'm stuck and don't know what the next step is or what arrives thereafter. She stares out the window, concluding this discussion. I may suck at reading women, but I could tell I wore out the topic. I left well enough alone, grabbed another cold gas station taquito, and munched in silence Sort of. So crunchy. Even cold. My phone dinged with another Cerber notification. I squinted at the request to share a ride with the current passenger. I guess even the supernatural care about the environment too. Makes sense. They're typically immortal or live longer than humans anyway. Being mindful of cutting back where you can is never a bad idea. They may also be just as cheap as my sister too. Who knows? Hey Angela. Someone wants to share your ride for about 15 minutes. Is that cool? She nodded, still brooding in her own nerdy and dramatic state of despair. I hit accept to someone named Siubihan. I pulled up to a lake that was pinned in the request. Standing there was a gorgeous woman. Long red hair, waxen skin, and a black dress that only revealed her head, hands, and shoes. She was a petite little thing, which I thought would be a relief. She looked way too normal. Siubihan climbed into the back seat and said, "Thank you. I didn't think drivers were ever in this area." She flashed a sweet smile and buckled her seatbelt. She looks like a human, but humans are definitely not allowed to use Cerber. So what is she? This wouldn't typically bother me if she had a third eye or a protruding underbite of razor-sharp teeth, but she just looked like the average commuter, and that was unsettling in this very specific circumstance. I can't say that they are. I just happen to be in the area, I said, staring at her through my rearview mirror. Angela seemed to be fairly unfettered by the new passenger. She had nothing to contribute. I pulled back onto the freeway, glancing every few seconds to see a smiling Siubihan looking back at me. She's likely under the impression that I'm thinking of a decent pickup line. In actuality, I was trying to read the room a bit to see if it was appropriate to ask possibly the dumbest question I've ever verbally vomited. So, what are you? I asked. What's that supposed to mean? She asked so defensively. I mean, what kind of thing are you? You look way too normal to be using Cerber, so what are you? It would take an expert team of surgeons from France to remove my foot I just shoved down my own throat. If you can believe it, I was entirely shameless in my questioning. My sister was clearly appalled, since she turned her head towards me, mouth agape in utter horror. If she didn't look so dead, it would have been funny. However, she looked very dead, and that caused my body to visibly shudder. What are you talking about? I'm clearly a beautiful woman! Siubihan all but screamed at me. Yeah, James? Shut all the way the fuck up! My sister hissed her freaky post-mortem teeth. What? I asked, thinking my question was perfectly valid. I should have guessed that Angela knew something that I didn't by her reaction. I should have stopped there, apologized, waited until Siubihan exited my car, and asked Angela what the big deal was. But I didn't. Oops. Big oops. From the back seat, I could hear gurgling and panting. I looked in the mirror to see that Siubihan was shaking violently, and her skin was bubbling. It looked like black billiard balls were crawling violently under her epidermis. Her eyes took on a bright yellow and rectangular iris forming like that of a goat or frog. God damn it, James, now you've done it. Angela yells in a panic, wincing and huddling by the car door. It looked like she was trying to brace herself for a detonation. Well, I guess she technically was. Siubihan's face started to stretch, her face forming a long, horse-like muzzle. Her arms wiggled in a transition of black tentacles, writhing and rapidly becoming larger. Her long red hair morphed into wet obsidian strands. She looked like a horse octopus between glances of the road in my rearview mirror. Her physical being became far more atrocious, and I couldn't help but autopilot my way down I-5 in the meantime. I could see her chest heaving and falling with every snort of her hot breath. She went from being this tiny doll to being a massive mess of tendrils behind a set of glowing eyes. She quite literally filled most of my car. What the hell are you, lady? My voice cracked as if I was 16 again. That sort of sight will suck the masculinity right out of you and make you a mouse in no time flat. A sharp bray escaped her hoarse lips and caused me to lose hearing. I could see that Angela was trying to bark the answer at me. What? I asked, hearing my own heavily muffled reply. She's a Kelpie, Angela screams, throwing her hands up. The fuck is a... I couldn't finish my question before one of Ceobian's slimy tentacles plunged its way into my mouth. As if I hadn't humiliated myself enough with my tone-deaf night of interrogations, I subjected myself to real-life hentai on top of that. Super. I take one hand off the wheel and try and yank the tentacle out of my throat. Swerving at 75 miles per hour in a frenzied panic, another appendage wrapped around my chest, my throat, and my left leg. As if my stupidity wasn't done controlling the events of this evening enough, I decided to let go of the steering wheel entirely to get a better grip. Bigger oops. I was losing consciousness and strength quickly. I haven't been able to breathe for a good 2 minutes, and with a surging adrenaline rush to try and stay alive, my legs involuntarily stiffened to find leverage. On the gas pedal, of course, biggest oops. I found myself speeding down an empty highway, wrestling with pissed off pony puss, trying to desperately stay alive, and crashed my tank of an SUV into a ditch. Though it was extremely dangerous and entirely unintentional, totaling my vehicle is what saved my life. I blacked out temporarily and woke up to an uncomfortable stillness that followed the car accident. I could hear Sylvia breathing quickly in the back seat, and it sounded like that's all she was doing. I slowly looked back, blood trickling into one eye, and see that she's still knocked out. After feeling relief wash over me, I was hit with an overwhelming amount of pain from impact, as well as an overexertion from defending my airway. I crawled out of my car and dropped to the ground directly onto my back, knocking the wind out of my already fragile chest. I gripped my shoulder and let out a man's groan. I lay as flat as possible, looking up and trying to mind too much movement of my neck and back. Angela pokes her face into my vision directly above my body, and I ask her to get my phone. Angela hands me my phone, and I tap on the emergency number, bringing the phone up to my ear. Hi, Jim. It appears you've been in an accident. It's Adeline, with her annoying, jovial voice. I'm sending 2 drivers to your location, both equipped with Cerber-employed physicians. I assume your sister will be joining you. That bitch. I'm agitated and grateful all at once. Yeah, I choke out to her. Have him pick up 3 tacos, a burrito with extra nacho cheese, and a bottle of painkillers. You're buying. I drop my arm to my side and allow myself to pass out. I wake up 4 hours later, suffering a very minor concussion, a shattered esophagus, and some bruising on my bones. We were put up in a mediocre hotel room, stocked with an obscene amount of Mexican food and a tall bottle of heavy painkillers. I sit up, knock the painkillers off my nightstand, and grab a burrito. Alcoholics shouldn't touch opioids. I already knew that. I'll pay myself on the back for the one responsible decision I made by stuffing my face with my favorite addiction. I quietly ate my burrito in bed and glanced over at Angela. She was sitting in a dusty rose slipper chair, arms folded and staring at the ceiling with her legs crossed. I looked back down at my burrito and allowed myself to bathe in shame for my irresponsible lack of cough. The disheartening fact that I almost died in 2 different ways in a matter of 5 minutes was starting and blanketed me like a guilt quilt. I messed up so bad tonight, and I'm due for a round of penance. I'm sorry, I say, my mouth full of burrito innards. I wasn't thinking properly and put us into a dangerous situation. She raises her hand at me, gesturing for me to quit while I'm ahead. I listen this time, mostly because my mouth was full. I'm already dead, doofus, she calmly reminded me as she continued to stare at the ceiling. I wasn't in any danger at all. There's seriously no need to apologize. Alright, I say, emotionally wounded. Where's my car? You totaled it, James. We're going to be stuck here for a few days until Cerber can iron out all the details with your insurance. Adeline called me and filled me in on the process, and she said she's going to take care of it. There's nothing that can be done for at least 2 days. So focus on healing. We waited 10 years, we can wait 2 more days. Her disposition softened, trying to soothe me. Okay. I continue eating my burrito, reflecting on the antics of the evening. Angela? What? She asked as if she was prepared for another blow of foolhardy questions. What the fuck is a Kelpie?